They were wrong. This is the story of the de Havilland Mosquito, the wooden wonder that outran every fighter, defied every rule, and changed the future of aviation. Britain, 1940. The Battle of Britain still raged overhead. Factories were stretched to their limits, and aluminum, the lifeblood of every aircraft, was growing scarce. While others designed heavier bombers with more armor and more guns, Geoffrey de Havilland, founder of the de Havilland Aircraft Company, imagined something radically different. A bomber so fast it wouldn't need guns at all. His idea seemed absurd to the Air Ministry. A lightweight wooden aircraft with no defensive weapons, relying purely on speed and altitude to survive. Officials dismissed it outright. "Wood," one said, "we're fighting a war, not building furniture." But de Havilland and his engineers believed in it. They argued that wood wasn't weakness, it was freedom. Britain's carpenters and cabinet makers could build airframes while metal factories focused on fighters and bombers. So, in a quiet hangar at Hatfield, work began in secret. The team used layers of birch plywood and balsa wood, glued together with a new resin stronger than rivets. The fuselage was built in two mirror-image halves, each shaped like the hull of a racing yacht. When joined, they formed a smooth, aerodynamic shell, light, strong, and beautiful. The first prototype, the W4050, rolled out in November 1940. It had two Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, a streamlined nose, and wings so thin they looked delicate. On its maiden flight, the Mosquito climbed faster than a Spitfire and flew higher than most interceptors. De Havilland's gamble had paid off. The Air Ministry could no longer ignore it. Within months, orders poured in, not just for bombers, but for reconnaissance and fighter versions. The same wooden body could be adapted for almost any role: camera bays, bomb racks, cannons. Flexibility became its hidden armor. The Mosquito's arrival marked the birth of a new philosophy. That speed, precision, and efficiency could defeat brute force. While other bombers crawled at 200 miles per hour under heavy gun turrets, the Mosquito cruised past 400. It didn't fight the enemy. It simply vanished before the enemy arrived. By 1941, a select group of pilots were training to master this unarmed ghost of the skies. They called it the Wooden Bullet. The name fit. As one test pilot wrote in his logbook that winter, "You don't fly the Mosquito, you wear it." The first Mosquito squadrons became operational in early 1941. At a glance, the aircraft looked fragile. Pale wooden wings, a narrow fuselage, no defensive turrets, no armor plating. But once the engines opened up, it became clear why Geoffrey de Havilland had been so confident. Two Merlin engines pushed the airframe to more than 400 miles per hour, faster than almost every fighter in the Luftwaffe. The Mosquito could climb above 30,000 feet, cruise at high altitude for hours, and still land gracefully on short runways. Its light frame meant pilots could yank it through turns impossible for heavier bombers. The Air Ministry had demanded heavy bombers bristling with guns. The Mosquito ignored that logic completely. Its defense was simple. It was too quick to catch. German fighters scrambled to intercept it, but by the time they reached altitude, the wooden streak had vanished into cloud. The first missions were photo reconnaissance flights deep over occupied Europe. Cameras replaced guns, capturing crisp, high-altitude images of docks, rail yards, and secret weapons sites. These photos guided nearly every Allied operation to follow. Pilots joked that their only weapon was the truth, the evidence their lenses brought home. Then came the bomber versions, Each could carry a 4,000-pound cookie blast bomb, half the weight of the aircraft itself, straight to its target. It struck with precision unmatched at the time. While lumbering four-engine bombers dropped carpets of explosives, Mosquito crews hit single buildings, bridges, or power stations with astonishing accuracy. Crews quickly learned to trust their speed more than armor. On missions to Berlin, Cologne, and Hamburg, they flew low, sometimes below treetop level, racing through valleys at 350 miles per hour. Anti-aircraft gunners often never saw them coming. The Mosquito became the embodiment of a new kind of warfare, one built on agility, intelligence, and surprise. German reports spoke with frustration. "The wooden British aircraft comes and goes as it pleases," one officer wrote. The Luftwaffe tried everything: faster interceptors, radar traps, even barrage balloons. Nothing worked for long. For the men who flew it, the Mosquito felt alive, smooth, responsive, utterly unlike any heavy bomber. Navigator and pilot sat side by side, close enough to read each other's thoughts. The cockpit smelled faintly of varnish and glue, the scent of the carpentry shops that had built it. Every flight felt personal, almost intimate, between pilot and machine. Many crews gave their aircraft names like Black Rhapsody, Highball, or Beauty and the Beast. Each one was hand-built, each slightly different, each carrying the fingerprints of its makers hidden under the lacquer. By the end of 1942, the Mosquito had earned its nickname, the Wooden Wonder. To Britain, it was proof that imagination could beat scarcity. To Germany, it was a ghost, the plane that shouldn't exist, but did. By 1943, the Mosquito had proven itself as Britain's fastest, most flexible aircraft. Now it would prove something even more powerful. Precision could be just as devastating as brute force. One of the first missions to demonstrate this came in September 1942, when 4 Mosquitoes streaked through daylight toward Oslo, Norway. Their target was the Gestapo headquarters, a fortress-like building that had become the center of Nazi control in the region. Flying only 50 feet above the fjords, they released their bombs with split-second timing. The structure was shattered, archives destroyed, and resistance fighters freed from interrogation. Every Mosquito made it home. That mission became the blueprint for a new kind of air warfare. Small teams, low altitude, total precision. Crews learned to fly through the letterbox, skimming over trees and rivers, timing their attacks to the second. The aircraft's speed and agility let them pull off raids no heavy bomber could even attempt. In October 1943, Mosquitoes from 464 Squadron attacked the Gestapo headquarters in Aarhus, Denmark, again flying below rooftop level. Windows shattered, walls collapsed, and vital intelligence records were destroyed without harming nearby civilians. Then came one of the most famous operations of all, Operation Jericho, the Amiens prison raid of February 1944. The mission was desperate. Allied prisoners, including French resistance members, were about to be executed. 19 Mosquitoes, escorted by Typhoon fighters, raced across the French countryside barely 20 feet above the ground. They hit the outer walls with pinpoint accuracy, then returned to breach the main cell block. Over 250 prisoners escaped in the confusion. 3 Mosquitoes were lost, but the survivors called it the proudest moment of their lives. Each of these attacks showed what the Mosquito could do that no other bomber could match: strike at will, anywhere, with uncanny accuracy. Even the Germans acknowledged it. Luftwaffe Commander Hermann Göring, furious after repeated attacks on Berlin, was quoted as saying, "The British, with their wooden aircraft, make fools of us all." If I only had a squadron of Mosquitoes, I could win the war. It wasn't only bombing runs. Mosquitoes harassed German night fighter bases, shredded trains, and attacked Gestapo convoys. Their photo recon versions scouted enemy movements before D-Day. Others flew as pathfinders, marking targets for the slower, heavier bombers that followed. From the deserts of North Africa to the frozen fjords of Norway, the Mosquito became the symbol of precision, daring, and speed. Every mission seemed impossible on paper, yet every success felt like a reminder. This aircraft wasn't designed to destroy cities, but to destroy the idea that a small, light plane couldn't change a war. By 1944, pilots said they could feel the confidence of the whole factory behind them, from the carpenters who shaped its wings to the women who glued its panels. The Mosquito wasn't just an aircraft. It was Britain's ingenuity in flight form, a statement that intelligence could win where brute force failed. By the middle of 1944, the Mosquito had become one of the most versatile machines in the sky. It could photograph, bomb, scout, hunt, and fight, all in the same day if needed. No other aircraft in World War II wore so many faces, and every version seemed to master its new role immediately. The fighter-bomber variant, the FB Mark VI, was perhaps the best all-round combat aircraft ever built. Armed with four 20mm Hispano cannons and 4.303 machine guns in its nose, it could also carry bombs or rockets beneath its wings. Pilots launched it against railways, convoys, and airfields across occupied Europe. At full throttle, it skimmed the ground at 350 miles per hour, strafing locomotives until the steam from ruptured boilers hid it from view. German troops called it the Whistling Death. Then came the night fighter versions. Equipped with early airborne radar, these sleek black Mosquitoes stalked the darkness, hunting down German bombers as they approached British cities. Their pilots flew by the faint green glow of cathode ray screens, guided by ground controllers and instinct. In a single night, they could shoot down half a dozen intruders, quietly, efficiently, unseen. When the Germans began launching V-1 flying bombs, Mosquito crews rose to meet them. The V-1s flew at nearly 400 miles per hour, but the Mosquito could still catch them. Pilots learned to tip them off course with their wingtips, or blast them mid-air with cannon fire. It was a strange, deadly dance between speed and precision. In the Far East, tropicalized Mosquitoes fought a different war. Operating from Burma and Ceylon, they raided Japanese supply lines through jungle and monsoon. The wooden airframes handled heat and humidity far better than metal ones, and local workshops could repair them with simple carpentry tools. Everywhere it went, the Mosquito adapted. Proof that good design needs no translation. The aircraft also became the eyes of the Allied advance. Reconnaissance versions photographed D-Day beaches, V-weapon sites, and the crumbling infrastructure of the Reich. Each sortie meant hours alone at high altitude, unarmed, trusting speed and altitude to bring the crew home. The clarity of those photographs still amazes historians. Many are used in documentaries and books to this day. By late 1944, the Mosquito was serving with the RAF, the Royal Navy, the USAAF, the RCAF, and even the Free French. Over 30 different versions existed: bomber, fighter, night fighter, pathfinder, reconnaissance, and even trainer. Wherever it flew, it earned affection. Crews described it as honest, responsive, almost human. It felt alive in a way few machines ever do. The Mosquito had started as a desperate improvisation. Now it was the RAF's most effective multi-role aircraft, and one of the fastest operational planes of the entire war. Its plywood skin and balsa heart had outclassed steel and armor. When the guns fell silent in 1945, the Mosquito's engines cooled for the first time in years. Across Europe, Asia, and the Pacific, crews climbed down from aircraft streaked with dust and oil, their uniforms smelling faintly of glue and wood smoke. The war was over, but the Mosquito's story was far from finished. More than 7,700 Mosquitoes had been built in Britain, Canada, and Australia. Factories that had once turned out furniture and pianos had built one of the fastest planes in the world. After the war, it found new lives everywhere it went. Photo reconnaissance variants mapped continents. Bomber versions became survey aircraft, weather planes, and even record setters. In 1947, a stripped-down Mosquito set a world speed record of 416 miles per hour, faster than any piston-engine aircraft before it. Others went on to serve with air forces from Israel to Sweden, still reliable years after the war that created them had ended. Its wooden frame aged gracefully, though humidity and time took their toll. By the early 1950s, metal jets had replaced the wooden wonder, but none flew with quite the same spirit. Pilots remembered it not for its kills, but for its grace. They said it moved like thought, answering every touch with perfect balance. Engineers remembered it as proof that creativity could dad convention. When materials were scarce, imagination filled the gap. In its curves and joints lay the fingerprint of thousands of carpenters, glaziers, and craftsmen who built history with their hands. Today, only a handful of Mosquitoes still fly. The roar of twin Merlins in perfect harmony can still be heard at air shows in Britain, Canada, and New Zealand. When one lifts from the runway, spectators often fall silent, not from nostalgia alone, but from recognition. They are watching genius take flight. Museums preserve others in gleaming condition, their varnished wooden skins reflecting hangar lights. Children press their hands against the glass, and veterans stand quietly, remembering friends and missions long past. The smell of old wood and engine oil carries stories words can't quite hold. Aviation historians often call the Mosquito the most successful multi-role aircraft of the war, but that phrase hardly captures it. It was an idea made real, that lightness could be strength, that intelligence could beat mass, and that courage could take any shape, even one built from balsa and glue. When we look at a Mosquito today, we see more than an aircraft. We see what human beings can create when every material, every rule, and every assumption says no. We see proof that brilliance isn't measured in armor or weight, but in imagination. The de Havilland Mosquito remains, even now, the perfect contradiction. Delicate yet deadly, simple yet sophisticated, humble yet legendary. A machine born from wood, faith, and defiance. A reminder that the sky has never belonged only to those who follow the rules, but to those who dare to rewrite them.